The aesthetic of the film, the look, the feel, the sound, the tone, the pace, those are things that I truly believe are 100% collaboration. In this case, it was working with 3 people that I'd worked with before. This would be Krang, or Pepin, who is the composer, Brett Bachman, who is going to be editing, and Noah Greenberg, who was the cinematographer. Yeah, the only note I would have, Noah, is maybe if we can try to get like around a little bit more, so we're a little bit more dead on for the grab. I knew that we were going to be able to point the camera at the jungle, and just the mere fact that we were pointing it at the jungle made the production value look like it was $100 million film, or even more.
The vast majority of the film is shot in the jungle in Hawaii, which is a spectacularly beautiful place to film, but certainly not without its challenges. The light comes in and out quickly, it rains, it stops raining. We were shooting during the winter, the hours are shorter, and it is rainy season, and the light is spectacular. We wanted the light to feel very naturalistic. It wouldn't feel stylized, or you wouldn't have any awareness of a specific source other than an organic one like the sun. And to achieve that, we largely did leverage available light and modify that with silks and reflectors and the occasional HMI, but it was largely left to modifying what was there. An interesting challenge to the film was that, and one of my great reservations upon reading the script was that a huge percentage of the film takes place at night in the jungle. And, were this a $20 million picture, that would have been exciting for different reasons. But it was a little bit of a, oh my kind of moment, because night for night in the jungle with a tiny crew is just, aside from the logistical complications, is also dangerous. And we were shooting with an incredibly aggressive schedule, so it seemed essentially untenable. Given that, proposed to Josh that we perhaps consider shooting it day for night, which can look, very cheesy, depending on how you do it, or timed correctly can be a very effective tool. It's a delicate line because in the grade, finding the balance between it feeling naturalistic and actually dark in the way that your eye perceives it and the way that it perceptually feels correct is a very desaturated, typically lower contrast and fairly richly black, dark look. But depending on where that ends up projected, that can easily tip and end up feeling too dark and losing information that you really want. One scene that I really enjoyed filming and that immediately sort of comes to mind as a favorite is not one of the action sequences or any of the jungle stuff, but rather there's a very intimate moment that's a long take that's early in the film. I really enjoyed shooting it because it was very intimate with the actors. It was a tiny room and we could only really just have me and the actors in the room. It was great because it was just this very sort of intimate, organic dance choreography between us as we sort of figured out how to make that all work in one long take.
Then there was Pepin. I called him, told him about it, sent him the script, blah, 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 and he totally wanted to do it. When Pepin and I were initially talking about the score, we were talking about having it be organic sounding. I didn't want anyone to hear anything that sounded particularly digital. Just didn't make any sense. If there was a sound that was going to be in the score, it needed to be as organic and as, natural as people in the jungles.
I do have a favorite musical moment here. It's the track which is called Justicia, which is actually just a panning shot from after Guillermo does the deed. I think it was Tempt with Sicario by Johan Johansson. And I tried to do my own take on that thing, and it ended up just being a nasty, gnawing beast of a sound that even took me by surprise. Also, it's a very important moment for me in the film because that's the point where everything turns. It becomes so vicious, not only the music, but the visuals as well. And I had to follow that path with sound, which was nice. Josh made me write about 98 minutes of music in 6 weeks' time. He knows what he wants, which is something that I like in a director a lot more than having some vague descriptions saying I want more tears or I want more blood, or he's very, very precise. He knows exactly what he wants. I kind of like to work within the limits of what a director wants and what I want. Fortunately, Josh and I don't have a hard time finding middle ground.
Camino was one of the most unique and challenging projects I've worked on, in particular because how the budget constraints and scheduling problems affected the available coverage that we had. Several distinct creative choices were made because we just didn't have time to shoot out scenes. For instance, we flash up a big red spiral plant. We did this simply because we didn't have the footage of Luna struggling with Guillermo. When you have minimal material, it really forces you to think outside the box and to rely on abstract tools you may not have thought of initially. We were making cheats left and right and hoping we could hide things from the audience. Everywhere. The best example I can think of is the sequence where Sebastian creeps up on Avery, where the two of them have a conversation and Avery subsequently stalks and ambushes Sebastian. The first time we shot this in January, we had a beautiful riverside location full of these really distinct trees. Matthew Daddario gave a really compelling performance as Sebastian, and we spent a day or two on this little island in the river to shoot this entire sequence. However, when production was forced to take a hiatus, this left us with some substantial challenges. Matthew Daddario was no longer available, so we had to reshoot this entire sequence with our new actor, Jason Canella. Adding to the complexity of this, our new shooting schedule did not permit us to return to the same location and reshoot Matthew's old coverage with Jason. This meant that we had to find a similar location somewhere more accessible and close to one of our booked locations. So basically, I teamed up with our location manager and scouted potential spots where the foliage matched. We would have to find a way to shoot pickup shots with a different actor in a different location and somehow find a way to splice them into an old sequence with another actor and another location. Eventually, we got to the time where we had to shoot this, and Josh and Noah, our first AD, and our script supervisor would be looking at me with the cut on my laptop, and we'd be playing it back on set, and I would have to point out, this tree will match, shoot against that, we can use this little patch of ground because it will match the January shoot, and we're all kind of crossing our fingers to hope it would work in the final edit.
But that's also, the great thing about working with, Pepin and Brett and Noah is that, you're working with people that come with their vision, and that's why you hire them. There's some sequences in this film when combination of the edits with the score, with the cinematography, with no dialogue, those are some of my favorite moments in this film, and I am beyond happy. There's moments that just knock my socks off. And I just get excited like a little kid from watching it.
Either way, it was emotional and violent. Right. And the saga. Emotional scene. Also violent. Emotional and violent.
What do we hope audiences will take away from this? Well, as I said earlier, I do believe that what makes a film great is that it deals with real emotional circumstances. I hope that audiences are thrilled and ultimately inspired by her story.
At the end of the day, it's all about working with people that you trust, making sure that your communication is completely fluid so that the vision is a shared vision. And if you surround yourself and you're working with people that you trust that are more talented than you are, that shared vision will become a reality.